There you go. Hello and welcome to Genius Teatime with Dr. Ifunanya Nweke. Um, thank you so much for joining us. This is really awesome. I'm so glad you can do it. Dr. Ifunanya Nweke, EDD, is an empowerment engineer and a leading advocate at the intersection of entertainment, education, workforce development, and disability advocacy. As the founder and executive director of Hands For Autism, she has pioneered tech-enabled pathways for neurodivergent musicians, fostering access to arts education, employment, and industry opportunities. Under her leadership, Hands For Autism has served hundreds of neurodivergent individuals nationwide, creating employment pathways and generating over $50,000 in earnings for neurodivergent creatives. A sought-after speaker and thought leader, Dr. Nweke has lent her expertise to institutions worldwide, including the GRAMMY Museum, the Vancouver International Film Festival, the USC Price School of School Policy, and the Los Angeles County Department of Arts and Culture. Holding degrees from USC and UCLA, she is a recognized civic leader honored by California lawmakers and the Empowerment Congress for her transformative work in inclusive arts education. That's awesome. Can you tell us more about Hands For Autism?
Yeah, so I've been trying to on being. Can you hear me? I've been working on being more succinct with it. So I'll do my best to say as much as I can in as little words as possible. So who is Jazz Hands? So first, we're based in California. We're based in Culver City, specifically California. We're very happy that this has been our home for the last 8 years. Yeah, 20, no, yeah, 7 years, 7 years, 8 years next year. And in a nutshell, what we do is we provide support to neurodivergent musicians and the educators that support them. Um, so the work that we do with neurodivergent musicians is we provide, access to quality music education that is tech enabled. So we are able to serve individuals, like I said, nationwide. So we have virtual services, we have hybrid services, and fully in person. And that started back during the pandemic, and we maintained that format because we noticed that it helped us reach more people in more places, which is our big goal. So from music education, we also provide, workforce development training and services, and then we also provide job scouting, on the job coaching. So really, what we do is we support the neurodivergent musician from passion all the way to employment, if that's the path that they want to take. And we do that through our various programs: our junior academy, our conservatory, our enrichment programs, our Jazz Hands Jobs program, and even our music library that helps neurodivergent creatives, leverage their existing original music for passive income by placing it via sync placement. So that's what we do. The direct to student, I would say direct to student or direct to musician services. And then now we in the past 11 years, which is what we've been around, we've also learned a lot about how to help educators know how best to be inclusive in the classroom, specifically music educators. Because not only do we have our curriculum that we built that is used in our conservatory and our various different programs, we also have been building alongside that our educator training program. So now part of our vision is that the future is, in order to reach more people in more places, which is like our model for the next 10 years of Jazz Hands starting this year, we want to be able to teach other people what we have learned over the last 11 years. So our curriculum is designed for the neurodivergent musician. It's individualized, it's paced, the scope and sequence, and even the user experience is designed with the neurodivergent learner in mind. And so we want to get that in the hands of as many educators as possible, because we recognize that there are quite a lot of music educators, or a lot of educators in general, who may have a desire to teach all their students, but maybe they don't have the tools or the background or the toolkit to be able to do that. And so we're trying to make that easy for music educators to ensure that in their music classroom, or even if it's in their private lessons, that they're able to reach musicians of all backgrounds, especially those who are neurodivergent. And it's important because, why music? I mean, I don't want to nerd out, but there are so many studies that show the impact of music in the lives of people who are disabled, um, or disabled, whether it's a physical disability or neurodivergence. Um, and I think it's important that we create more avenues for music to be a pathway into socialization, into employment, into skill development, into just hobbies, into just contributing to their communities, and that's the work that Jazz Hands does. Essentially, we're trying to create a pathway for neurodivergent individuals to be integrated and included members of their communities through their interest in music.
That is wonderful. I'm going to pause for a second because the dog is yelling at me. So, can I take him out and I will be right back?
Yes.
All right, I'll pause the recording. Hang on. And we were going to be here and talking about how we can do better with our education, especially with the neurodivergent students. What is it that you're finding? Because I know music can help with so many things in education, but what is it that you're finding in particular that how you can help?
Here's something that's interesting. So this is what happens at the Jazz Hands studio, right? So this is not necessarily, yeah. I want to give you a kind of example of what happens at Jazz Hands. So for many people with autism, I mean, one of the foundational elements of the diagnosis of autism is challenges with social interaction and socialization. Very, very narrow interests, and people with autism have there's just perception that they can't make friends. But I will say that I don't really see that at Jazz Hands, and I'm not saying that, you know, yeah, I'm not saying that individuals, are no longer artistic when they come to Jazz Hands. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, when musicians come to Jazz Hands, take classes, meet other musicians, something really magical happens. And they find people who have similar interests as them. They can talk for hours or whatever it may be. They support each other. It's like, oh, I'm a musician, you're a musician. We have our gig coming up. How can I support you? They cheer each other on in the audience. They cheer each other on backstage. They build real camaraderie, real friendships. And there's a really big sense of belonging here at Jazz Hands. And so I think that that's one thing that music can do. There's research that shows, I mean, colloquially, music is called the universal language. But actually, it's actually now research based. There's actually studies that show that music is universal language, that there are certain chord progressions or there are certain, elements of music that, regardless of culture, they elicit the same kind of a response in people. And it can really bridge between people that may not even know that they have common interests with each other. And then from that bridge, that socialization bridge, so many beautiful things come from that. Confidence comes from that. Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say a big one is confidence. A big thing that comes out of that is confidence, and confidence is a really, really important part of moving around in the world, because then you have something of value to give, and it's somebody who's there to receive it from you, and you're also part of a reciprocal relationship, which a lot of people with autism are said to not really have much of. So I would say that that's one big thing that music can do, and access to music education, where people are learning not just individually but also alongside other people, can help accelerate that feeling of belonging and create an environment where that can occur organically and naturally. So I would say that's one of the big things. I've spoken to many music educators, and one of the challenges that they have repeatedly said, one of the things I've repeatedly heard from music educators, especially those I've talked to in LA County, is that they just don't know how to include their neurodivergent students in the music class. Maybe it's a music class of 5 or 10 or 20 or 35. They don't know how to integrate that individual into the just the happenings of the class, because that student may have additional support needs or may learn differently than the other students. And so part of what we are aiming to do with our educator training program is, teach music educators, okay, these are some really practical tools that you can implement that don't cost you more money. They're not really a heavy lift, but this is a way that you can design your classroom, design your curriculum, and kind of your approaches to actual instruction. These are things that you can do to help more include your neurodivergent students more and integrate them more into the happenings of the music class, which can then result once again in confidence, camaraderie, socialization, etc.
It makes such a big difference. And just knowing that we can actually work in the world. And it sounds like these are some pretty straightforward tools.
They are. They're very straightforward tools, very simple. Just things about like once again, just even how your classroom, just the actual physical classroom, how that's set up, how you present the classroom activities for the day. What kind of tools you use to actually teach the topic. All these things matter. And what one thing that I believe is that when you teach to those, when you design your classroom for those who have the most support needs, everybody benefits from that. You know, that way you're able to reach the individual that has the greatest support needs, and then those who have less support needs are also benefit from the classroom design as well. And you can also design a classroom in a way that helps your students actually be more interactive and be more involved in the happenings of their students, of their fellow peers and their fellow students. So these are some of the elements that we teach educators how to do. We've done it with various about 70 music educators in LA, and we're hoping to increase that number in the near future.
That is terrific. So walk me through some of the tools that you are using, if you don't mind.
I mean, I would love if people just actually, register for the training, and then we can.
Absolutely, of course.
So, but I would say this in general, like the tools are kind of built. There are certain categories that we provide training on. One, like I said, is your class. How do you set up your classroom? What are some optimal ways that you can set up your classroom that will allow an individual to be able to be a part of the music class, and also be able to have their sensory needs met if needed. What kind of tools can you what kind of elements and items can you keep in your classroom to ensure that your students are engaged, or if your student has is overstimulated or understimulated, how you can still engage them in music class. Another one is how to structure the way that the cadence of what you're teaching.
Hmm.
Um, and we also have like assessments, so like how to properly assess your students, understand what their baseline is, so you can teach and different differentiation of your curriculum, but in a way that does not put extra weight on the instructor. So these are some of the elements that we teach the educators.
It sounds like that can be useful for so many groups of people.
Absolutely.
And just figuring out, because we
Absolutely.
don't, yeah,
No, I mean, what I was going to say is that, yes, individuals who are neurodivergent, their brains work differently than the neurotypical person. But even within the neurotypical world, everyone's brains doesn't work the same either. People learn differently, and so knowing how to differentiate instruction in a way that doesn't add additional burden to the educator and meets the students where they are, I think, like I mentioned before, can really be a benefit to all students in your classroom.
absolutely. We haven't really even studied exactly how people learn either. I mean, so many of the ways that we use in standard practices don't work very well for a lot of people, you know.
And actually they cause anxiety. A lot of the ways that education is provided in this day and age, I would say probably works for a very small portion of students. Yeah. So I think that there is a need for a overhaul, and if not an immediate overhaul, then a gradual shift in the way that people are taught, and people are taught to teach.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're still using the same old method and expecting different results, what is that the definition of insanity?
It's interesting because like there's this I think I believe it's attributed to Einstein, but I'm not sure. There's this saying that if you evaluate a fish based on its ability to climb, that fish will I forget how it goes, but essentially that fish will spend its life feeling like it failed. So you have to be able to evaluate people and teach people in the way that they learn the best. If the goal is to have people learn, then it is imperative that we ensure that they are learning in the way that they can actually access the information. And for many people with who are neurodivergent, music is a really strong way to access information. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great, because I know it works on different pathways. I know sometimes, for example, people have been able to change stuttering patterns by using music. People have been able to access memory after strokes through music. That it speaks to different portions of the brain.
Absolutely. And I mean, even just the way that music is processed. So as opposed to something like speech, which is processed, I would say bilaterally. So it just goes from one hemisphere to the other. Music actually, I would say, is probably more, I don't know, my words always escape me, but I see it in my head, but I always have a hard time just saying the words. But long story short, music uses so many more structures and is more um, I would say more of an orbital rather way of processing is processed in more orbitally in the brain than just bilaterally. That's what I was trying to explain. So it uses a lot more structures. So if a person is unable to speak, they can still access speech by singing potentially, and many studies have shown that.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that. Husey, the dog. I've noticed that some people after strokes who are having trouble with aphasia were
Mhm.
having better luck accessing memory of singing. That people with, for example, dementia are having better luck at finding memories through music.
Absolutely. It's interesting because during the pandemic, this has been a bit of a dormant project at Jazz Hands, but during the pandemic, we started something called the musical care packages. And our goal with that was to be able to um, build bridges between individuals, like families and their loved ones who are in senior care homes. Um, especially those who have dementia or memory challenges with memory. Um, because music has been shown to be able to increase access to memories and things of that nature. We wanted we wanted families to be able to kind of curate a playlist of songs, usually like standards and classics, songs that they can then personalize and send to their loved ones that are in senior care homes as a way to still kind of show them, hey, I care about you. Maybe I'm not able to see you, especially during the pandemic because of lockdown. I'm not able to see you. I'm not able to hug you and touch you, but I'm thinking about you, and send them like a curated care package that's a musical playlist that includes pictures, videos, and things of the nature that can help spur memory and induce warm feelings and feelings of belonging.
What a
Yeah,
wonderful idea.
yeah, it's dormant. I would love for us to bring that back. Um, I mean, we still have the page up on our website, and we still have all the materials, but we just haven't publicized it much. But yeah, I would love for us to be able to do that because yeah, we had one of our musicians record about 50 songs, 50 standards. And so we're able to actually, and even a happy birthday. You can even send somebody a happy birthday musical care package, if they're in a senior care home, especially if you live on the other side of the country and your loved one lives in California, you live in Pennsylvania. There's a way for you to still stay connected using music, and that's what we hope to do.
That's wonderful. What a neat idea.
And the great thing is that not only does it connect families, but it also provides the musician who recorded those 50 songs was paid for that. So it also provided work opportunities for the individual, or individuals who are neurodivergent as well.
That is perfect. What
Yeah.
a great what a great fit then for
Yes.
what you are doing.
So more to come on that. Long story short.
All right. Well, looking forward to seeing more of that. Have you been getting some good responses from the trainings that you've been getting from other teachers across?
Yes, we have gotten good responses. Many people said that these tools are really helpful. So people mentioned, oh, they were able to now put a name to some things that they were already doing in their classroom, so that they can do it more. Because sometimes instructors may actually have like an intuition, like, oh, maybe I can do this, but because they may not know that this is actually research backed, like what they're doing is actually a best practice. they may not, they may not be as consistent with it as they could. And so one thing that many educators who have gone through our training have mentioned, oh, I was doing something similar to this, but now I think I'm going to do it more because now I know that this is actually a best practice. And then but on the flip side, one of the things that people have said is, okay, this, for example, our curriculum, this I see the benefit of this, but how does this work in a larger classroom setting? And so part of what we're looking to do is conduct a pilot where we actually study how our curriculum and our educator training is implemented in the larger classrooms so that we can learn how to then modify and revise our curriculum so that it can be used in a 1-on-1 or 1-to-5 setting up to a 1-to-35 or 1-to-40, even if there's just one instructor in the classroom. Yeah.
That's
So,
great. What size of classrooms are you usually working with?
we at Jazz Hands, for example, like at our educational studio, we maintain a class size or a teacher to student ratio of 1-to-5. So if there's more than 5 individuals in the classroom, then we would have more than one instructor in there, or more than one, more than one instructor. So if there's 6, there's probably 2 instructors, and then it becomes a 1-to-3. But we try to keep the ratios just 1-to-5. And so we're now planning on learning, okay, how can we then expand this to larger classroom sizes, which is what most school districts, most places actually are. There's just one instructor because due to budget constraints or whatever that may be, one instructor to several students. How can we then be able to, how can they utilize our tools in that kind of setting?
Uh, what kind of ideas are you coming up with for that? Because I know that would be a challenge, but a lot of teachers have very large classrooms at this time.
So I mean, I think it's important to, in those kind of settings, one thing that, I mean, we're still kind of in the process of going into conducting that pilot, but one thing that I suspect is that finding a way to empower other students to be a part of the teaching process, I think teaching your students how to be empowered students can be a really great way to be able to reach more students in your class. So have smaller groups and then have group leaders, things of that nature are ways that you can be able to kind of multiply yourself as an instructor.
So smart. And it's pretty well documented that one of the best ways to learn something is to start to teach it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for the students who may be ahead of the class, for example, or ahead on certain topics, or can learn certain topics much more quicker, or much more quickly, or much quicker, rather. Um, they can reinforce what they have learned by helping other students be able to learn that as well.
Yeah, that's just a really good idea. This is a pilot program that you're just figuring out little bit by bit, or do you have it ready or more ready to go?
So we're figuring it out bit by bit. So we have a partner that we'll start working with, hopefully in the fall. Hopefully that nothing changes. And then from there, then we'll then expand what our learnings to other places that we plan to work with, other settings. Yeah.
No, that sounds terrific. Crossing fingers for you that all of the changes that are happening right now in education and funding aren't going to be too detrimental.
Absolutely. I'm receiving that good energy.
I'm really glad. Because, yeah, music makes such a big difference in all types of learning. And then also in working well with each other is what I have seen.
Very, very important, and I think we often forget the importance of community. Um, and not, yeah, like just communal learning. Like that is very important, especially for youth. I mean, just even as human beings, like we're social creatures. A lot of our decisions tend to be based on what's happening with people around us, right? But then we're doing that individually without understanding that we're all doing the same thing, but we're all in our head, But if we kind of actually kind of break down that, I think is what's it called, third wall, fourth wall, whatever wall that is, whatever numbered wall that is, break that down and kind of say, okay, we're actually going to be learning together. I think that that actually increases motivation to learn.
And just overall good feeling and so many other things. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, that makes such a really big difference.
It does. It really does. So yeah.
Do your students have a lot of opportunities to perform?
Yes. So Jazz Hands, we have two concerts a year. So we have our May concert and our November concert. So spring, summer, and fall/winter concerts. Always before Memorial Day and always before Thanksgiving, but that can change. But we hope to kind of keep that cadence. We've kept it so far for 10 years, I think now. Um, and so our musicians perform at those two events. And then as of this academic year, we started, well, as of this year, actually, I will say 2025, we started like smaller showcases at our studio. So we have a fall showcase coming up in October. I believe it's going to be, might be on Halloween.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. We have our winter showcase, which is in January. We have our spring showcase, which is in April. And we have our summer showcase, which is in July. So in addition to our two concerts a year, which happen in May and November, we also have showcases throughout the year for our musicians to be able to, practice songs that they want to perform at the concert, rehearse songs that they want to perform outside of Jazz Hands. So that's just Jazz Hands curated events. In addition to those events that we curate and those showcases and recitals, we also, I mentioned through our Jazz Hands jobs, we also are consistently out in the community trying to find performance or music-based work opportunities for our students and our musicians. So our musicians have performed for the city of Culver City, the city of Pasadena, ex-mayors, current mayors, so various different types of private parties, weddings. So our musicians have a lot of opportunity to perform just based on the Jazz Hands curated events, showcases, and recitals, and also the community events that we find through our Jazz Hands Jobs program.
That just sounds terrific. And obviously, that's going to build so much confidence and really great professional experience.
Absolutely, and so many our musicians now can say, "Oh yes, I performed, twice a year at various type of venues." For example, like with our Jazz Hands concert series, one of the things that we've done in the past, or one of the focuses in the past was we've had our concerts in many different settings. We've had outdoor concerts. We've had indoor concerts. We've performed at like comedy club type settings. We perform at auditoriums. And now our musicians now understand the acoustics in different kinds of rooms, and they can speak to that and say, you know what, actually, I liked when we perform at this place because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So now they're actually learning about the acoustics of the room. They're learning, okay, if we perform at a UCLA versus the Culver Steps, we're gonna need a stage, we're gonna need a this, we're gonna need a that. So now they understand, oh wow, what is it? They understand what it takes to produce an event in many different types of settings. They understand what the acoustics and the sonic quality are of different kind of settings. And so they're able to actually speak. They're becoming very strong professionals who can say, oh yeah, I can perform at an intimate venue or a stadium, you know. And so built into a lot of what we do at Jazz Hands is, real life opportunity, like really practical opportunities to learn real life skills in a very organic and natural way. So while we, like I said, we do have the community outreach and the community events, just built into the way that we operate our operations in general is our musicians understand, oh, deadlines and this and that, so that when they get out into the world, these are not new things that they are confronting. There are things that they know how to do, and they can always call somebody at Jazz Hands to say, okay, I just came across this thing, how I need some support. So just because a musician either matriculates out of Jazz Hands, graduates, or decides that they've reached their capacity of what they want to learn at Jazz Hands, they know that they always have access to support from our team. And many of our musicians, even some of them who haven't been at Jazz Hands for 3 years, they still call and say, hey, I need help with this. And we're like, yeah, got you. We got you. You
That's
know,
awesome, though. And like, what a terrific resource for everybody.
that's our goal. Our goal is to be a resource and to teach other people how to be that kind of resource too. You know, that's
Yeah.
And that's once again why, with training music educators and with helping them learn how to use our curriculum, we're actually helping them see, okay, this is how we do what we do at Jazz Hands, that what's been so successful. Now we want you to be able to do that so that more people in more places have access to that kind of support, have access to that kind of resources, have access to that to um, a format of learning that actually helps them learn.
Perfect. Like what a great dream and a great way for all of the students and alums to get everything they need. Do you focus primarily on jazz music or
No,
standards?
great question. So we're called jazz hands for two reasons. One is because for many individuals who have autism, when they get excited, it looks like the stimming looks like jazz hands sometimes. Um, Not for everybody, but for some individuals. And then also jazz hands as a move is something that is done at the end of a show. I'm sure you would know. It's done, it signifies we came, we saw, we conquered, and we have now closed out the show. So we're called jazz hands because there's excitement as we triumph over conquering stigmas that keep that act as obstacles for people who are neurodivergent. So that's why we're called jazz hands. So all that to say that no, we don't only focus on jazz music. We Our musicians, we just had a rock showcase back in June. We had a classical showcase at the end of May, if I'm not mistaken. And so yeah, so we have individuals that do jazz, classical music, rock, pop, some people who do gospel, and everything in between. So at Jazz Hands, our curriculum is not is can be used to teach most genres.
Makes total sense. I figured there was probably another reason for the term jazz hands.
Yeah. And the thing, another thing that's interesting is that even with jazz, right? So um, jazz is it's a technical genre, but it's also very improvisational and very organic. So, and it's all about community and it's all about listening to those around you and then building together. I don't think there's two. Uh, Very rarely do you hear a jazz song played the same exact way more than once. Because it depends on so many things in the context. It depends on who's playing and how they're feeling and how they're communicating with the next person. And so then that all comes together to actually give you the jazz. And so that's also a part of the undertone of who we are at Jazz Hands is there's no one way to be human, right? And so we want to create room where people can come together to create something beautiful and something unique.
Yeah, that beautiful sense of what jazz can do, that kind of intuition based with it. I don't remember who was talking about that, but that's sort of the idea of jazz was that you come to the moment as prepared as you can, and then the music flows from you.
Absolutely. So yeah, so you learn a technique and then you allow your community to then shape what is birth.
Do you find some of your students and alums end up working with each other?
Yep. So
Awesome.
yeah, several bands have come out of Jazz Hands. So we have Taxo in the band, who they're a rock band that's composed of Taxo and a drummer named Felipe who learned how to drum at Jazz Hands. And so now they have a band. They performed at the Viper Room. They performed at the Whiskey A Go Go. They performed at the Mint. Then we have Dragonite, which is a newer band that just started. They're composed all completely of Jazz Hands musicians, and they perform at the Mint. And they have written several songs together, and they perform at the Jazz Hands concert. So they're a newer band, and they're building their set lists and building their audience base. We've also have individuals that have done classical shows together. So there are many different collaborations that have come from Jazz Hands, and these are things that have occurred spontaneously. Maybe we'll make a recommendation like, oh, you guys seem to have like the same things. Why don't you guys start a band? But we kind of step back a little bit and allow our musicians to do have autonomy over what they're forming outside of their courses and classes and that they take at Jazz Hands. So long story short, much collaboration has come from jazz hands, especially after our concerts. So maybe two musicians will see each other and like, I like you, we like the same kind of music. Let's go out, let's go get some lunch. And then from them getting lunch, it becomes a band. And so our concerts actually, they serve several purposes. One of them is a recital opportunity for our musicians to share what they've learned and what they're working on with, an audience of supportive family, community members, friends, etc., potential employers. It's a place where the community can come and recognize, oh, what I thought about autism is not what I'm seeing here. This is a completely different, you know, uh, way of, perception, or a different autism that I've been told. Autism is scary, autism is this, but this is not that. Individuals who are neurodivergent have interests, they have desires, they have talents, they have, so let's treat them like human beings who have something to offer, because they do. And let's create room for them to be celebrated as well. So it's an opportunity for the general public to celebrate the contributions of individuals who are neurodivergent. And then a third kind of thing that comes from our concert is collaborations. So it's like a three-way thing. There's probably more things. More things happen at the Jazz Hands concerts. More great things come out of that. But those are the top three things that I can name at the moment that come as a result of the Jazz Hands concerts.
That's awesome. What brought you to this idea, if you don't mind me asking?
Um, Let me try to give you the short version of it. Um, I would say the short version is that I met a really talented musician who was on the autism spectrum, and I saw what he was able to create in his life through music. And it was a very short period of time that I was around him. So I had just met him that day, and I was a behavior interventionist. So I was shadowing his behavior interventionist, to kind of understand the role um, more. And went through various different classes. He was mainstreamed, which means that he was the only person with autism that was in his class. So other students were neurotypical. And so I kind of followed him and his behavior interventionist through all his classes that day until we got to music class, where there was a sub, which means he can do whatever he wants on the instruments. And he did just that. So he gets on the piano and starts singing a song. I looked at his therapist, and he was singing it beautifully. Like, he had just this really amazing tone to his voice. Just I was like, wow. I was blown away. I was so impressed by his talent, by his, just the passion. Like, he just was a great musician. I was like, wow, like, I want to see this guy play. Where does he play? And his therapist was like, one, he heard that song for the first time 3 days ago, which I was like, how did he do that? How did he just hear for the first time 3 days ago and he's playing it and singing it? I don't understand that. That is amazing. And then two, he doesn't play many places. This is when he gets a chance in music class. This is a place that he gets to play. And so my response to that was, there has to be a place where this individual can be able to perform in front of an audience more consistently. And I'm sure there are other musicians who have autism that are looking for a place to perform. And then one more thing happened in that setting. So when he gets on the piano and was playing and singing the song he was singing, his other classmates who were neurotypical got on different instruments and they were accompanying him. And so what I then saw in that moment was the ability of music to build bridges of community and to create lines of communication, and also position him, that individual, as a leader in that setting, which I think is very, very important. I think that many people who are neurodivergent or who have disabilities spend a lot of time receiving things, whether it's therapies or whatever, receiving, which is good. I'm not saying let's stop that, but I think there's some confidence. Jazz hands, we have a saying, confidence comes from knowing that you have something of value to give to others, and the community thrives when that giving becomes reciprocal. So I think that there's something very important about a person knowing, not just receiving things all the time, but being able to be in a position to give something. I think that that's a very, very powerful place to be. And it's powerful and empowering for a person to say, oh, yes, I in this setting have something that I can share with someone else. And, so that I think is very, very important. And that's the reason why the Jazz Hands concerts feature neurodivergent musicians. I've talked to many people, and they're like, oh, why don't you invite the celebrity person? And I'm like, yeah, that's nice, but then I don't want people coming to the Jazz Hands concert just to see, Justin Bieber play. Like, they can see Justin Bieber anywhere else. you know, they're coming here to see neurodivergent musicians play. Like in this setting, they are being celebrated and they are being highlighted, and they are the feature performers in this setting. And I think it's important for there to be a place where that happens, because there's a very it's empowering, it builds confidence, and then that confidence then translates into them doing more and more places within their communities. Um, and it also transforms the way that people perceive them, which is a very, very important gateway. And that's part of what my dissertation was about. you know that's not part, that's actually what my dissertation was about. It was about how music performance can expand opportunities over the lifespan for individuals who have autism by transforming the way that their parents especially perceive their abilities. There's something powerful that happens when you see a person performing music on stage. um, and for many, from all the parent for if most, if not all, the parents I interviewed for my dissertation, there was a pivotal moment at which they saw their child performing on stage that then changed the trajectory of that child's life. Because when you see a person performing, even if it's just a 5-minute performance, you're seeing them display memory and recall. You're seeing them display socialization. You're seeing them display probably resilience because they have to practice to get to the point where they're on that stage. You're seeing them display courage, and these are key skills and key things that parents need to see in their child to say, okay, I think my child can do more. And when parents get to the place where they say, oh, I think my child can do more, then they make more available for that child, thus expanding what that child has access to over their lifespan. And so that's just for the parents, but that also happens for the general community. When you see a person being able to be their full selves, be confident, joyful, and talented on stage, you shift the way that you see them and you say, oh, wow, what I thought about autism is different. This person can do anything that they put their mind to. Exactly. That's the whole point. So, long story short, I don't know if I answered your question, but I gave you all that.
You did. You did answer it. And it makes such perfect sense. And I'm so glad you did it. And obviously, I think all of your students are glad.
I hope so.
Oh, like, I hope so.
you
Yeah.
know, we're at, our instructors and our staff, I think they do their best. Our musicians, they do their best too. And so my, for me, success looks like a lot of things, but one big thing it looks like is for our musicians to know that they have something of value that they can contribute to in their community.
So important.
Yeah.
Wow. How many teachers do you have there?
Um, we have a total of 20 people on our staff, myself included, if I'm not mistaken. But a majority of that are instructors. So I think we only have like maybe 3 or 4 admins. So I think we have like between 16 to 18, yeah, 16 to 18 instructors. Excuse me. Okay. And they teach various different topics: music theory, various instruments, musicianship, music history. Our musicians are learning like music history, and it's interesting because like many of our musicians are also have encyclopedic knowledge of like certain segments of music. We have individuals that have expert knowledge on like 60s pop, people who have expert knowledge on Motown, expert knowledge on classical music, expert knowledge on jazz, expert knowledge on rock, that can sit down and tell you like, okay, this song was recorded in this place and it was in this key and it was performed by this person and it's been performed this many times in this many places and this person's birthday is today. you know. So yeah, we have a good time here at the Jazz Hand Studio. I will say that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And when music is your special interest, you got the arena.
Yep. And that's the thing, I think for many people who I'm going to speak specifically about autism, everyone is not interested in music. While I do believe that music can be a strong tool for most people, not everyone is interested in music. But I think that when a person is given, one, finds an interest that they want to focus on, and two, is giving opportunity to focus on that interest and build upon that interest, really amazing things happen. And for Jazz Hands, we specifically focus on interest in music, but there's other areas that a person may be interested in. And so I think we just build supports around that so that they can be able to maximize their interest and be a part of the day to day of their communities.
I think like anytime you're allowed to have your gifts be cherished, they flourish.
Absolutely. Agreed.
That's such an important part of what makes anyone's life valuable. So
Absolutely. You
you're
know,
doing awesome work. I'm really glad.
thank you. Doing our best, I will say, doing our best, doing our best. Thank you.
Awesome. And that's it. So people can find you at Jazz Hands for Autism online and on Instagram and where else?
Yes. So on Instagram, it and Facebook, it's Jazz Hands for Autism, FOR. On X, which we don't really use that much, it's JH the number four autism. On TikTok is at Jazz Hands for Autism one. And our website is www.jazzhandsforautism.org.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Thank,
perfect.
thank you so much for this opportunity. You know, I don't I don't feel like I was as eloquent as I could be. I could have been, but I think I shared my heart. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you the work that we do at Jazz Hands. It's work that I care very deeply about. I care deeply about our students, our staff, our entire Jazz Hands family and ecosystem. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about that. Also for the opportunity to speak about the importance of inclusive education, especially inclusive music education. And thank you for creating this platform where people can come and share things about their various different expertise and disciplines. And, I know that you are an artist and you also facilitate spaces for other artists. So thank you for doing that in this way.
Awesome. Thank you. It says this has been a delight to do these, honestly, because there's so many wonderful interests that people have, and also so many people genuinely working to make this world better.
Yeah.
And right now, we need more of us. So I want to celebrate that and make sure that stories get out there so people know.
Thank
Wonderful work. I
you. Right back at you. Wonderful work. You too.
All right.